On this episode of Still Loading, just doing my duty, Your Heinekes. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this new episode of the Still Loading podcast. I am your host, Josh Koval, and today on the podcast, we are starting what is going to be another informal series. I got like a bunch going on. I have the Naughty Dog one, I have the James Bond one, and they're always all up in the air. But this one will hopefully be a bit more consistent than I've been with the others, which I'm still not done yet. I plan on finishing them, but it's just finding guests for them is the tough thing. So, but this, I will not have an issue finding a guest for each episode in this semi-formal series. My buddy Dexter Morrill, who you may remember from his Bite-Sized Books interview that I did back in October last year or something like that, October, September, and then also the video game history episode that we did together. He is coming back on, but first, actually say hi to everyone, Dex.
Hi, everyone. It's me.
It's the Dexter. He's back on to talk with me, and we're going to have a lot of fun conversations about Captain N, the Game Master. Now, for those who've never heard of this show, Dexter, could you explain in a nutshell what is Captain N, the Game Master?
All right. This is the show that Marvel ripped off to come up with the Marvel Cinematic Universe. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, man. Shots fired.
No, in all seriousness, this was a Saturday morning cartoon totally taking advantage of the Nintendo craze going on in the 80s. And it's a show that is a kid being sucked into Video Land, which is essentially where all of our video games live, and having to save the virtual world there. So it's the first Isakai for all of you anime weebs out there.
I've never even heard that term before. What's an Isakai?
Isakai, that's a genre now of anime. That's like...
Really?
It's anything where someone ends up in, people have kind of skewed the definition, but I've always understood it as being sucked into a video game genre.
So kind of like Sword Art Online.
Yes.
But I don't think they actually physically get sucked into Sword Art Online. It's just all digital, but when they die in Sword Art Online, they die in real life. So it's kind of like they do. Right. I only watched a bit of the first season of that show. I used to love anime, and I still like it, but it's just, I've just never feel like watching it anymore. And it's not anything to do with the shows. The shows are still fun when I watch them. I never set aside time to do it.
Yeah, sometimes it's work. But yeah, I think the definition's been broadened to being sucked into a different universe, not even necessarily video game. But
well, we're talking about the first episode where Kevin, the main character of the show, gets sucked into Videoland, and it's the first episode is called Kevin in Videoland. It was written by Jeffrey Scott and originally aired on September 9th, 1989, the year I was born, Dexter.
All right.
The year I became old. And I always thought that, this is on Wikipedia, and I don't know how accurate it is, and I don't remember hearing it in the episode. I mean, maybe I wasn't paying that much attention to it, but there was featured songs, and it was The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly by Ennio Morricone. I can't say his name. The dude who does the music for all of a lot of those spaghetti westerns with Clint Eastwood and everything. Right. And then it also had Shakedown by Bob Seger, of all people.
Yeah, there was a lot of this kind of in this time frame, like late 80s, that it was kind of a, people weren't even considering that anyone would want these TV shows on DVD, or, obviously DVD wasn't a thing yet, but for home access, they just assumed these things would run for a little while on TV and then they would go away.
I was going to say, I don't hear the song at all on YouTube, which I'm not surprised by. I bet you YouTube cut it out, or they cut it out from YouTube so they don't get sued.
Even the DVD releases replace the songs with something generic, so that you don't have to worry about that. It's the same problem with old Muppet Babies cartoons, because
Did
they
they
just
have
would have,
licensed music too?
yeah, and they would have clips of Indiana Jones and Star Wars and Spider-Man and things like that that they definitely would not have the rights to. I mean, they might now since Disney owns everything, but
Yeah.
so bring back Muppet Babies, Disney Plus. But yeah, that was the issue with that is they would just throw in like songs of the time that they felt like sounded good and not even considering that they would have to repackage it later.
That's always so wild. I mean, there's actually a whole industry now of people who pick the songs for streaming services. In fact, I'm a huge fan of Scrubs, and on the Scrubs Rewatch podcast that Zach Braff and Donald Faison do, they've talked about how they had a group of, their former line. I don't know if it's a line producer or I can't remember. I think Randall Winston's his name though. He actually played Leonard the security guard who had a hook hand in the show for anyone who watched the show. He was hooking up with literally like this 60, 70-year-old woman named Gloria, and he was probably in his like 30s. And it was a good joke, but he he was the one who was charged with having to find the music to replace all the ones that they couldn't get the licensing agreements for again. And I don't envy that job because like Scrubs specifically, but a lot of shows, so a lot of times the song choice is super important and super
Right. Yeah.
and I don't think necessarily for this show, but but at least in Scrubs it was super important. So that's a tough job. But in any case, so back to Captain N, the game. I was going to say the Dream Master, like Little Nemo, the Game Master. So in this first episode, Kevin gets sucked into the game world, gets sucked into Videoland, and looking on the Wikipedia, I was trying to find this dude. I wanted to find a way for us to get him on the podcast. The live action actor that you see at the beginning. So at the beginning of the episode, when Kevin gets sucked in, you actually see a live action person get sucked into the TV, and his dog does too. And you see this really bad, but probably good for the time, CG character, green CG alien thing, like fly out of the screen towards you as him getting sucked into Videoland. The actor who played the live action Kevin was Dorian Barag. I can't find him on IMDb. I can't find him anywhere on social media, and I
Actually
wanted to.
got sucked into Videoland.
I know, right? He just disappeared, and I really wanted to see if I could get a hold of him and be like, "What was it like?" Just like, if any of you've ever listened to a podcast called "I Was There Too," have you ever heard of that podcast,
I
Dex?
haven't. I'll have to check that out.
It's done by it's no, like you can still listen to it, it's up, but it's no long, it might be behind a paywall now, I hope not, but it might be. But it was a podcast by this guy named Matt Corley. I'm a huge fan of his. Actually, people who've heard the Q&A episode would already know that. I talked about it last night when I was recording it. But he did a podcast called I Was There Too, and it was basically where the premise was he would interview people who had small roles in famous scenes in cinema and TV history. So, for example, he found the stormtrooper that Obi-Wan Kenobi goes, "These are not the droids you're looking for." He interviewed that guy.
That's awesome.
So like the people who are just off to the side just a little bit. I think it's a really cool premise. So he talked to that guy who got Jedi mind tricked by
Right.
Obi-Wan Kenobi. And I thought that's a really fun idea. And this feels like something straight out of that. Now, I don't think Captain N doesn't really have the historical significance that Star Wars does, but you never know. Maybe 20 years down the road, all of a sudden Captain N is the shit again.
Right. And I guess we should probably clarify, in case it's not obvious, that the N implied Captain Nintendo. Like that was kind of that was the get around though, because for anyone that does end up watching this with us, they did a lot of dancing around using the word Nintendo and using the licensing, so they were at least aware enough for that, not to get in trouble. And that was actually more because around this time frame, cartoons, the government was starting to buckle down on the educational value of Saturday morning cartoons, and they couldn't just be toy commercials, which this clearly was a commercial for Nintendo products.
Oh, 100%. But it's so strange though that they had because they literally had so much on here. Like they had like Castlevania. It wasn't Nintendo. I mean, it was on Nintendo, but it wasn't. That was developed by Konami. Mega Man was Capcom, but they still have Donkey Kong and Metroid and uh, Punch Out and stuff like that. Like, and I'm trying to think if there's others that I can see here. Like, I'm just looking at the list right now, just of season one. What I am seeing, they use Danger Zone by Kenny Loggins a lot, which I know we won't hear in the videos. But yeah, Zelda, they have a Zelda one
Yeah.
too as well. And this, I believe, season 2 paired with the Mario Brothers Super Show at some point.
Season
At least I was reading
3,
that.
something like that. Yeah.
But okay, so let's talk about this first episode. Let's really dive into what happened. So Kevin gets sucked into gets sucked into Videoland, and the what I want to know, the first thing that popped in my head, I've actually watched this episode like 3 times now in preparation for this because it's like 30 minutes long. It's surprisingly enjoyable to watch, like in a bad way.
Yeah,
Like
it's a tight little, it's a tight little hero's journey happening.
but the episode starts with them saying, Videoland has been under siege. The Palace of Power in Videoland, housed, who is run by Princess Lana, has been under siege by Mother Brain and her minions for 7 years. And I want to be like, what started this war? Like, how did you don't you are literally starting the story. Like, if you're looking at a 3-act structure, you're at act 2 right now. You're starting the story in act 2.
Yes.
Now, to be fair, this I it's funny. I forget. I think I learned this in college when I was doing game design stuff. That's how games start. Like, a lot of times in video games, you start the story in act 2 because the introduction, the act 1, the beginning, and like the inciting incident isn't always the most interesting thing.
Right.
So the video games have had to find ways around by starting the story in act 2 and find ways to tell act 1 through act 2, which is a really interesting conundrum they have to deal with. But I digress. They don't do that in this. They just ignore act 1 completely, and it's just like, nope, we are in a war now. That's all you need to know.
Yeah, no, this show and part of the reason why I'm such a huge fan of it is like the people who wrote this, like as you watch the show, you start to realize that they have the amount of knowledge they have is not what it would be now if they were to make a show like this. It's clearly these guys had a couple of games in college and maybe were given a couple of games when they were given this job, and that's pretty much it. Um, but the amount of like lore on the periphery that they never touch is like perfect for like digging into more if they were to keep going with this show or have some kind of reboot or spin-off.
One thing that stuck out to me the most, actually, out of this, well, there's 2 things. I will say the good thing that stuck out to me, and then the bad thing that stuck out to me. The good, well, we'll start with the bad and we'll end with the good. The bad is the voice acting, and I'm not saying the voice actors did a bad job. I'm saying the choice of voices
Mm.
that the actors used. Mega Man is like I think we spoiler, or not spoiler, but a little behind the scenes stuff. We tried recording this once before and some technical difficulties got in the way. But we like it was like you were saying, it was like a proto Toad. Oh no, it's kind of like that almost.
Yes, Mega Man had like I'm guessing that the voice actors were only they weren't given actual like character traits. They were just given like this is a drawing of what the character's going to look like. Figure out your
Most likely
voice.
there was no character sheets or like what I mean, like, I mean, to be fair, at that point, did Mega Man really have a personality?
No,
You know what I
I don't
mean?
think so.
Like, you really didn't see Mega Man's personality come out until like later on, right? Into the 90s with like the Mega Man X here. Well, X is different than Mega Man, but like, you know what I'm talking about.
Right. And I'm not
Um,
even sure he gets a personality in this show.
I don't think he does. But the Kid Icarus, which is what you heard me kind of parody at the beginning of the intro here, he ends most of his sentences with Icus. So that's like the first line out of Kid Icarus is just doing my duty, Your Highness. And it's stupid, but it's so
Yes. I don't know
enjoyably
if it comes
bad
up
to
in this
watch.
episode or not, or at least not often, but Mega Man also adds Mega, like, that was mega amazing, or that was mega
Okay.
great, or, things are mega. because his
That
name is
sounds like a
Mega
very
Man.
80s, 90s like decision, like a creative direction.
Yeah,
Like
it's
he
like
has Mega in
having.
the name, so let's just put Mega in everything.
I don't know if this was like the snarfification of like 80s
Snarf.
cartoons, like, or like, there was Slimer in the Ghostbusters, and Snarf in the Thundercats, and like, we got to give them something to make them like cute for the kids.
Give him a catchphrase to make him unique. It's like
Yes,
he's Mega Man. Come on.
right. And I guess
And
to go back to like the knowledge that these writers had, they call him Kid Icarus instead of Pit, which is what most of us know him
yeah,
as now.
I also found it the design, like the visual design of Mega Man, was kind of funny because it's kind of more like the Mega Man One box art than the actual game design. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? He
yeah.
kind of looks
And
closer to the box art than he does to the game graphics.
And I don't know it, like, he's clearly blue no matter what, like, unless the person who wrote it had a bad television, like, or drew him.
Yeah,
Like,
he's very like dark gray, like a
yeah,
gray blue in
green,
this.
yeah. So I don't know if that was a legal thing too that they were trying to dance around, but
But they called him Mega Man. Like, I don't think just because you don't make him blue, I feel like it'd be different if you called him like Ultra. Well, Ultraman's also copyrighted because that's a different thing. But say you called him like Super Cool Man. I know that doesn't work quite as well, but
yeah,
like, but you made him blue type of thing. Everyone would know what he was type of
right.
thing. Versus this, where you just flat out call him Mega Man. It's like if you're already calling him Mega Man, I don't think you have to worry about likeness rights. You're already calling him Mega Man. Like you know what he is.
Right.
Um, I do like so the main characters in this, like we said, it starts off with uh, Videoland has been under siege. The Palace of Power in Videoland has been under siege for 7 years by Mother Brain. Mother Brain's terrifying. I wrote down the characters that appear in this episode. You have Kevin, aka Captain N, Princess Lana, who's not from any game, Simon Belmont from Castlevania, Pit/Kid Icarus from Kid Icarus, Mega Man from Mega Man, Mother Brain from Metroid, King Hippo from Punch Out, and then Eggplant Wizard also from Kid Icarus. The villains are Mother Brain, and then it's Mother Brain's two henchmen are King Hippo and Eggplant Wizard. And I gotta say, oh, I never said what the thing I liked about it was. I just went about what I don't like the voice acting. The other thing that stood out to me was the actual like backdrop visuals. Like I thought all of the like the backdrops that all the animation cells are placed on, I think are super fun to look at. Like they did the artists for that, I think did a really good job of envisioning what Videoland it's not even like it's not like Videoland's in a game they could base it off of. They just had to like there's a bunch of video game stuff. Let's see what we can come up with. And I thought it was interesting. I really liked the back. I don't know what it was about it. I just thought they did a really good job about with it.
Yeah, there's even like some of the action stuff, the animation is phenomenal too. Like for a show like this, like some of the animation's really good. Like needlessly good for some of this stuff. I'm trying to think of like the one moment that sticks out and it goes by so fast is when Kevin first shows up.
Kevin.
He he's got his gear of he's got a zapper. He's got a they call it a power pad, which always confused me as a kid because the power pad to me was the little mat that you stepped on for a controller. But he's got a
Hmm.
belt buckle that is a NES controller that gives him special abilities as well. But when he has the zapper, he's like, "Oh, this isn't real," and he fires it, and it zips by Simon Belmont's head. And the animation for that goes by really fast, but it's so smooth, and it's got these really great like stretch frames, and like if you were to slow it down, it's really cool animation. Like things like that. There's just these small action moments, but they look really good.
I was impressed in general with. I mean, it's got the very typical late 80s, early 90s, or just basically 80s animation style, like He Man, GI Joe, that kind of stuff.
Hmm.
It feels very much in the same vein as that, but it still looks pretty good, all things considered. And by the way, for those who, if anyone's interested in following along, well, I should have said this at the top of the episode. You can watch all the episodes for free. All the episodes publicly available. Like I think we were talking on our first attempt, Dex. You were saying like some of these aren't available on even the DVD.
Yeah, the DVD sets, which last I checked are very expensive, so good luck with that if that's something you want to go for. But there are DVD sets that call themselves the complete edition, but fans have pointed out that there's even stuff that they had to take out from the complete edition because of later on changing networks and kind of combining with the Super Mario Super Show. That they actually have a different box set for that if you're wanting to watch the Captain N that are tied along with the Super Show, which is actually, I think, how I first started watching it as a kid. It was tied along with that, and any of the older ones, I think I just caught in syndication.
See, I didn't get to grow up with a lot of these video game cartoons. The only one I really did was the Sonic Saturday Morning one. And now I think I'm getting it to be the right one. The Sonic Saturday Morning one is the one with like the more heavy tone. It's not like the
Yeah,
lighthearted, goofy,
the
campy one.
Adventures of
It's
Sonic the Hedgehog are the Looney Tunes type one.
okay, yeah. This was just Sonic the Hedgehog, I believe.
Yeah,
And it had that fucking like great theme song, that blue
yeah,
streak
so good.
speeds by
Yeah,
Sonic the Hedgehog. I love that song. That song that just gets me so fucking pumped. Like I get so like that's a workout song, man. It's so catchy, so fast. Anyway, I should back to Captain N. I'm getting distracted by Sonic the Hedgehog. So Kevin gets sucked in. The reason he gets sucked in is that there's some type of prophecy in Videoland that someone who's super powerful will come and save Videoland from Mother Brain, and it's Kevin who gets sucked in from the real world into Videoland,
they
and
use
him and
the
his
ultimate warp zone is like their secret
the
weapon.
ultimate warp zone,
Yeah,
and
and he's brought
he
in
gets sucked in
through
with his
like the ultimate warp
dog Duke.
zone. Yeah, it's their secret weapon is the ultimate warp zone, and so when they use it, that's what summons Kevin. And like you were saying, Duke jumps in with him, his dog, trusty dog
So
sidekick.
this is my first time watching through it. Does Kevin get sent back to the real world at times too?
No,
No, so
because
he's
of the
always
because of the hilarious ending of this episode.
so he never goes back home throughout the series.
There might have been an episode where that
His poor
happens.
mother.
I know.
His poor mother. He
Just
just
clean
did
your room, Kevin. Come on.
her son and dog just disappeared without a trace, and he's in there just like, I don't want to do chores, so I'm not going back. I don't care that my mom's going to miss me or the fact that she thinks I'll be kidnapped. I just don't want to do chores.
Yeah, that
That's
was such
so
a
funny.
it was almost ahead of its time because I feel like that was kind of a '90s vibe. Was like the like parents don't get me. I'm gonna be rebellious.
Oh, I was never a rebellious kid, but like I was definitely in that mindset of parents don't get me. I remember once, this is the dumbest thing. When you're a kid, you always, I mean, I would assume most kids thought this, I'm just going to run away. I don't want to deal with my parents' rules, so I'm just going to run away. And I actually tried to one time. And you know how far I got? I walked out the front door, didn't have anything with me. It's not like I packed clothes or actually was like some type of resourceful thing. I walked out the front door. I walked across our yard and halfway into our neighbor's yard. I'm like, wait, I don't know how I'm going to get food. All right, I guess I'll stay. And then I walked back. And that was my attempt at running away.
Yeah,
I have no idea why I decided, like, in my head, I'm like, that'll show them. It
yeah,
was so weird. But I think the 90s had something to do with it. I don't know. I just feel like it was that 90s angst, man.
yes, I think so. The Play It Loud era.
The play it loud, yes. The entire month of May here on Still Loading has been sponsored by Geek Guild. Geek Guild sells everything from vinyl to headphones to video games and accessories. One of my personal favorites in their store is the Crash Bandicoot Nitro and TNT pillows. And right now, if you go to their website, geekguild.com, they are having a deal going on where if you buy a pair of headphones and a mod mic, you will get a discount on both. So go to geekguild.com and check out everything they have to offer. All right, so Kevin gets sucked into Videoland. He is told by Princess Lana, who runs Videoland as far as I'm aware, that she needs his help in defeating Mother Brain. And Kevin's like, I don't know what you're talking about. He doesn't say it like that, but he doesn't even say that. But he's just very kind of like, hey man, not my problem. Leave me
Yeah,
alone. I just want to play video games.
the classic reluctant hero. They have to first deny the responsibility before they finally accept it.
I didn't even think about that. You see that all the time. That's such a common trope in
Oh yeah,
like these fish out
it's
of
it's
water
all
type of
they
stories.
actually have all of these things written out. It's called the refusal. Every hero in the hero's journey has to refuse the call. There's the call, which was the him being summoned by the warp zone. Then there's the refusal of the call, which is him saying, "No way, man, this is weird. I'm going home."
And then he decides to assist once Princess Lana gets captured. So the power surge that kind of brought him there, I guess, took down the Tower of Power's defenses, or the Palace of Power. Sorry, the Palace of Power's defenses. So
Tower of
Mother
Power
Brain
would have been
decides.
much better.
Tower of Power is a game mode that I used to play in Halo 2, which is a fun one. But that's neither here nor there. So Mother Brain sees this and decides to send King Hippo to quote unquote punch his way through their defenses. And he literally does that. The next scene that you see him in is just him with this like no emotion but somewhat angry face, just kind of just punching through walls. Like, and it's the most like he has no emotion with it. I can't I can't describe it. It would be such a good meme just to kind of like me still it'd be like me being mad depressed but still going through life anyway, and it's just these dead eyes as King Hippo's just punching through walls. I don't know why. I just found it so funny. So they punch through all these walls and they go to kidnap Princess Lana, because Mother Brain's whole plan is that she will use that to demoralize the Videoland troops or whatever. So that way Simon won't want to fight, and Kid Icarus won't want to fight, and Mega Man won't want to fight. And but little do they know is that Kevin is there to see it happen. So he has to go. So they have to go rescue her from King Hippo, from Mother Brain.
And then Kevin and Simon are arguing about how to go about rescuing Lana.
Mm-hmm.
We They definitely were going for a Harrison Ford, Indiana Jones, Han Solo thing with Simon, and I only noticed
Yes,
it. I only noticed it this time specifically because I think Simon's first line is "I know," which was the Han Solo line when Princess Leia says "I love you." I know. He has a similar intro to his character, like, "Oh, thank you, Simon. You're such an anchor to our army," and he's like, "I know." And I realize now, it's like, oh, that was such a Han Solo thing. I'd missed that as a kid as
but
well.
they did it in the worst way then, because Han Solo, it's so heartfelt, and like
Yeah,
it's not arrogant in the way in any way, shape, or form with Han Solo, the way Han Solo delivers it, because it's this beautiful sentimental moment between Leia and Han. And in this one, it's Simon Belmont's just a jackass. He's like, "Oh,
yeah.
I know.
They missed
I'm
the
Richie
mark.
McRich.
They missed the mark
I'm
with
part of
him.
6 fraternities and wear 60 ascots."
He would be way better as a Han Solo character, I think. But they definitely
I
make
agree.
him almost a second antagonist. Like they almost make him like he's always the thing that's like setting them back. And he's whiny and full of himself and everything, but he doesn't have that kind of
He's the most
charm.
capable.
Yeah,
He's
yeah,
the most capable of all of them in terms of his abilities, but
right.
he's like you said, he's so whiny and self-absorbed that he just sets every single thing back. It's
Right.
obnoxious.
Yeah. It would be great if he had more of that charm that Han Solo or, Indiana Jones, those kind of characters. But
But so
so
they
of
fight
course,
over. Yeah,
yeah, so I
sorry.
was gonna say, so of course they're arguing about, because Simon Belmont's full of himself, he has his way that he wants to save Lana, but Kevin being a game
Kevin.
master, knowing how to play games, and like that's the whole reason he was brought there, is like, oh, I know how to warp to Metroid. Um, so they end up arguing about how they're going to do this. They end up going Simon's way because Simon ruins everything. Um,
He rigged it by flipping a coin. He's like, if it's heads, we'll go my way. And both sides are heads, of course.
right.
A
So
tool.
and yeah, Kevin shows
Kevin.
Kevin shows Duke the coin afterwards. Like, can you believe this guy? He had a two-headed coin.
I do. What I thought was weird about this too is that Kevin was like, I've played this game. I played Donkey Kong a ton of times. I know which warp zone to go in. I'm like, there's no warp zones in Donkey Kong, you piece of shit. Like, come
Right.
on.
And the
Like,
fact that
what are you talking about?
they're talking about going to Planet Metroid, and
It's Zebs, Planet Zebs. Come on. I think
right,
it's Zebs, right? I think that's a planet for
or
Metroid.
Zebus. People
Or
still argue about that.
SR88 or something like that.
Yeah, people still argue about the pronunciation of that.
Whatever it's supposed to be. I don't freaking know. I'm actually looking it up just now. Planet Zebes or Zebs or however you pronounce it. But that's the world that the first game takes place on. So, and that would have been the only. Well, actually, when did Metroid 2 come out? Now I'm curious. Metroid 2 came out
And that
in
was Game Boy.
1991. So the year the game came out in 91, in November of 91. It came out in North America first. That's interesting to me.
That is interesting.
That's very strange. But either way, it wouldn't have been out in time for this episode to come out. So it would have been Planet Zebes or Zebes or an SR388 is the name of the planet in Metroid 2. So if they ever mention that later on, that's where it's from.
Exactly. So they end up warping to Congo Land, I think is what they call it in this. The
I was trying to do a
world
little conga dance. Not
of
that any listener could see that, but
it was wonderful.
thank you.
They warp to Congo Land where they interrupt Donkey Kong, who is having bath time. And Donkey Kong, I actually kind of like this interpretation of Donkey Kong's appearance. He's actually enormous, and they actually are like leaning on the Kong side of it, where he is like King Kong size.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, they have interrupted his beauty bath that he's taking, and now instead of worrying about trying to find and rescue Lana, they're having to run away from Donkey Kong.
And I love that his towel has the initials of DK on him. Like they added that little
yes,
touch. If you look on his towel, it has DK on
that
it.
preceded the tie that Rare gave him on Donkey Kong
Oh yeah,
Country.
you're right. Because I forgot Rare gave him a tie. Because Donkey Kong Country didn't come out until 1994. So
Right.
you won't see any
No.
Donkey Kong Country or like any Rare influences on Donkey Kong in this show.
Yeah. No Diddy Kong, nothing. Um, so they one of their idea to run away is they're climbing up this volcano in Congo Land,
Mm-hmm.
but was it Mega Man? One of them, I think they're all pointing out the fact that this is a dead end. They're running up, into a dead end. What do they call it? They call it like a double dead end or a double game over or something like that. I think Simon calls it because they either fall into the volcano. So now they kind of have to trust Kevin, whereas they didn't before when they were choosing how to save Lana. They kind of have no
Mm-hmm.
choice. It's either, Volcano or Donkey Kong. So now they're kind of forced to trust Kevin, and he uses his power pad or his belt buckle, the NES controller, which has the ability to kind of all of the buttons are the same as the NES controller, except they actually affect Kevin as well. Like so,
Yeah.
pressing up, like he jumps super high. But in this case, he waits till the final moment and presses the pause button or the start button, I should say, to pause Congo Land, and they use that to, traverse the rocks in the volcano, and then I think he uses the up button to jump out, if I remember correctly.
Yes. I will say though, the rules for this pause feature are very mixed. You don't really know what the rules are because earlier he pauses all of them. So
Right.
is it just what he thinks? Like if he hits the pause button, is it just pausing whatever is in his mind right now? Like whatever he's thinking, that's what gets paused? Or does he have to like, hold their hands or something and that's what caused, but I don't think he holds their hands. I don't actually quite remember off the top of my head.
No, it is definitely whatever the writer decides the power is.
Pretty much. But they use that portal then, that warp zone to finally get to Metroid,
Right.
planet Metroid.
Right.
Oh,
And something that I completely forgot about also on the belt buckle, there's these little blocks on top of his belt buckle that You don't know until the end, or until, coming up when they face Mother Brain. These little green blocks are signifying the power in his controller belt buckle. That
Hmm.
he has a limited amount, and I'm guessing it recharges somehow. That is not explained.
Why would you need to explain it? In between each episode, it gets recharged. Simple as that.
Yeah,
Logic,
it's
Dexter.
kind of like Spider-Man's web cartridges in his web shooters, where like whenever the story needs it, like, oh no, I'm out of web. What do I do now? It's kind of like
You
that.
gotta love, you gotta love, 80s and 90s cartoons where they're just kind of like, ah, fuck it. Kids are stupid. They're not gonna notice, and kids always notice.
Yes, yeah, exactly. But yeah, they finally warp. They get directly to Mother Brain, which, in my opinion, like looks nothing like the. Well, I guess a little
No,
bit
it does
like
not,
the
and
actual Mother Brain.
it honestly is a little terrifying.
It is terrifying, but I love that character design. Like I like unironically love that character design.
Oh,
I don't know why.
I'm 100% with you. 100%. It's so interesting. Like it's such an interesting take on the character because if you actually had the Mother Brain from the game, it'd be boring. There's
It-
no way you can make that as an interesting villain unless they did what they did.
exactly. And it feels like a combination of what the character looks like in the game with what you picture when you hear the phrase Mother Brain. It's like
Mhm.
a combination of those two things. And I love, is it Levi Stubbs? I'm trying to remember the voice actor's name.
Yes, it is Levi Stubbs who is the voice of Mother Brain.
Yes, he was also the voice of Audrey 2 in Little Shop of Horrors, which is where some of you may recognize the voice.
He
Um,
passed away in 2008. I was like, I wonder if I could get him on the podcast.
oh gosh, I
Can't.
I actually didn't know he lived that long. I thought it was.
Whoa. Holy shit. How did I not? He was the lead vocalist of the Four Tops.
Yeah, no, he was a big
Are
deal.
you kidding me?
That's I guess like
What?
Mother Brain sticks it like Mother Brain. Like I love that voice. I love the look. Everything about Mother Brain like is amazing. I just think that's an amazing villain.
I'm shook. Like I can't my mind is having such a hard time wrapping my head around the fact that like Mother Brain is was part of the Four Tops. Like I that wow. Whoa. Sorry. I'm sorry. That's just I that blew I wouldn't have known that if I hadn't clicked on his Wikipedia link. That
Yeah.
you're hearing a genuine reaction, listeners. I cannot believe that Mother Brain was voiced by one of the Four Tops. Like I can't. That's
It's one of the best
my mind
casting
can't
of
handle it.
any 80s cartoon.
It's a really good like, and you could it's an over the top. He's eating the scenery. Like the
Oh
voice,
yeah.
the choices that he makes is just like it is insane, and the it's such a caricature of whatever a caricature of a caricature of a caricature. It's like it's so diluted from the original thing, but the choices Stubbs makes in this is just are they're so fun. They're
Yes,
it's
absolutely.
like he's having so much fun, especially when Mother Brain laughs, like this ridiculous high pitched laugh. Like you can tell he must have just been in the studio just having a ball.
Well, I
Like
was gonna
it
say
just
that
seems so
because
fun.
Mother Brain has a laugh that goes into the commercial break, and they hold on that laugh. Like they take the whole laugh. You can tell that the producers of the show were like, we're keeping this entire clip. Like it's longer than they probably had the animation for, but they were like, this is such an amazing laugh. We need all of it.
It's so well done. It's so well done. So they make it into Planet Metroid, and they Kid Icarus and Mega Man, I believe, save because Simon decides to be like, I'm not going to go with you when they're escaping Congo Land because he still doesn't. He wants to be the hero, and he ends up getting left behind and separated from the group. Um, I believe they rescue Princess Lana, like Mega Man and Kid Icarus do, and then Captain N goes and confronts Mother Brain as well as King Hippo and Eggplant Wizard, and right when he's about to shoot her is when you like you mentioned before the power pad, the NES controller is out of juice. Just at that moment, though, Simon comes in and saves the day. And so now all of a sudden Mother Brain feels outnumbered and they just kind of run away and everyone runs away to live to fight another day. And it's kind of an anticlimactic ending, but they do rescue Princess Lana, and Kevin wants to go back to his real world, and then he hears his mother screeching on the other side of the ultimate warp zone, saying, I should say screeching, but are you in your room still playing those video games? Do your chores. And he's like, maybe I'll stay here a bit longer or something like that.
Exactly. Yes.
Oh my gosh, it's a fun first episode. I won't lie. Are there any other things that we didn't talk about that you wanted to bring up? Any other points that you can think of? I actually haven't even read any of my notes. Let me just see if there's any. I actually, all the notes I had are just like the overview of the story, and the amount of times that Kid Icarus just hurts me with like your Heinekiss and stuff like that, with the adding Icus to the end of stupid sentences.
Yeah,
He
he
calls
also
Kevin Kevicus.
Cavinicus.
Kevicus.
Cavinicus. It's needlessly complicated.
It's so complicated.
And he also comes in and out of having like a baby voice, which I think he eventually drops it as the series goes, but like, like the Elmer Fudd, like dropping his
Mm-hmm.
R's, like kind of thing. And that kind
Yeah.
of comes and goes, but I'm glad that they don't keep that. Like it's already obnoxious enough that he adds Icus to things. But I, I remember really enjoying the map as a kid. This is going to sound silly, but like the intro to Avatar: The Last Airbender, how it always starts with like the map
Yeah.
of the world.
Oh my God, it's the
This
Avatar ripped off Captain N, the Game Master. You
I
heard it here
know
first.
everybody ripped off Captain N. That's what I'm here on this show to tell everybody. Everyone ripped off Captain N. No, all the intros start with the map of Videoland, but it's such a simple map, and it's definitely only based on what they wrote for this first episode, because they've got the Palace of Power in the center, they've got Planet Metroid, they've got Congo Land, they've got Castlevania, they've got I think they call it Megaland, I think, for Mega Man, I think,
Megaland.
and I think what do they call Kid Icarus Land or something, like that's not it's like, but it's just the main characters that are given worlds on the map.
It's ridiculous.
It is. It's ridiculous and amazing, and something that you'll come to find out. I don't want to. Do I want to spoil it for you? That Mother Brain has another henchman that shows up.
Don't spoil it. I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna wait
Okay,
to see.
I'll just say that it's like Power Rangers, in the sense that how Rita Repulsa had her minions that were always on her moon base with her, and she had one minion that would build the monsters, create the monsters. I don't
Mhm.
know how familiar you are with Power Rangers.
Oh, I mean, I watched a lot of Power Rangers
Yeah.
growing up. I watched a lot of Mighty Morphin. But can you say that one more time? Because I was reading something.
So there's a minion that belonged to Rita that was responsible for making the monsters out of like clay and like the putties and stuff. And
Yes, yes. I forget what the name of it is though, but I know what you're talking about.
so there is a minion that shows up later for Mother Brain that is that person for her, and it is a video game character.
Oh, I wonder who it could be. I'm trying to think of what video game character it could be that would
It,
create stuff.
it belongs to a game of one of Kevin's crew.
Kevin. Probably Dr. Wiley.
Yeah,
There we go. Got it. Spoiler alert.
yeah.
Okay. So yeah, so I think that's pretty much all I got for this first episode though. Do you have do you have any last parting thoughts on it before we wrap this episode up?
On a whim right now, I think I'm going to create a challenge for myself, and I'm probably going to be mad at this version of myself in the future. But I think I
Mhm.
want to try and make a team of Captain N characters every episode, like what a different team of Captain N characters could be.
That'd be one a month then, because I think that's what I'm trying to stick with this. I'm trying to do this once a month,
I think I can
like
do it.
on the off weeks of the podcast. That's the goal, but we'll see what happens.
So here for the first episode, here's my Captain N team that would be interesting to see. Replace Mega Man with Bonk, the caveman. Um, replace Kid Icarus with a Moogle from Final
Mm.
Fantasy.
No, no. You're going to replace Kid Icarus with Pit. Sorry, no, I'm Google.
Don't take my future answers.
I know, right?
Replace Simon Belmont with Captain Falcon.
Mm.
And last one I have here, replace Mother Brain with Gruntilda from Banjo-Kazooie.
all the Charlie Brown noises those guys make in those games.
Yes.
I love the Banjo-Kazooie games.
So
I only actually played the first one though. I need to play 2E still.
2E's good.
That's what I've heard.
I will say that that's my first alternate universe Captain N cast right now. I'll have to come up with another one for the next episode.
All right.
So we'll put that out. We'll put that out for the comments, I guess, too. If people want to shoot
what would be your Captain N crew?
Yeah, I'll try not to steal it. Or maybe I will. Maybe that's how I'll do it. People's comments.
We have to create a whole crew based solely off of people's comments. That could go really well or really poorly, depending on who they suggest.
Yes, now I'm excited. I'm
all
making up these rules as I go, by the way.
All right, so that will do it for this episode, the first episode of our rewatch series of Captain and the Game Master. So, Dexter, thank you for joining me, and this was a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to watching more of these and then talking about them. I'm looking to do these once a month on the off week, on the first off week of the month. So you're going to get this every, essentially just every 4 weeks, essentially. You're going to get one of these every 4 weeks. That way it's not, overloading people with Captain N. But I mean, can that really, is that possible? I don't think so. Everyone loves Captain N. But where can the good people find you online, Dexter?
Oh gosh, I am on Instagram. It's my name, DEXTER_Morrill, MORRILL. Same thing on Twitter at Dexter Morrill. You can find me there. I am an artist on the side. I teach art. I'm a freelance artist, so that's why I love animation. I love all this stuff. I have a couple issues of the Captain N comic book. I guess we could talk about that later.
I did not know there was a Captain N comic book.
Oh yes. We could. That's a whole nother can of worms that maybe we can slip into.
We could dive into that. Yeah. All right.
But if you guys want to see some of my artwork, it's there. And then I also post silly stuff. Also, hit me up there if you've got some Captain N teams that for suggestions.
As usual for me, you can follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at StillLoadingPod on all of them. If you want to reach out to me, you can contact me on those social media things I mentioned, or my email, stillloadingcontact@gmail.com. If you want to support the show, you can do that in a number of ways. You can do that on by giving a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts or whichever podcasting app you use, or go to patreon.com/stillloadingpod. Even just $1 a month will help grow the show. And the most important shout out is the Bit by Bit Foundation. The Bit by Bit Foundation is a nonprofit organization whose mission is to put video games and video game consoles in the hands of kids receiving inpatient care at hospitals. So if you want to support them, go to bitbybitfoundation.org and consider donating. And that will do it for this first inaugural episode into the Captain N universe, the Captain Nooniverse. No, that doesn't work. So Dexter, thank you for joining me for this first episode.
Yeah, you're welcome. I cannot wait to keep watching these and doing these. So, woo!
Me too. It's going to be a ton of fun.
Yeah.
So, all right, guys. Thank you all for listening, and I will see you all next time.